Welcome to today's Tech on Tap. My name is Adam Herman. I'm with DataBank's technical teams. Today we're going to be reviewing managed services with all of the information systems that are out there, all of the resource needs. What does the right model look like for you, and what do you need for your solutions that you've grown or want to grow moving forward in the future? Introducing today's guest, all the way from Brookings, South Dakota to Minnesota, Kendra.
Hi, my name is Kendra Deutsch, and I'm with the services team here at DataBank. I work with most of the engineers, analysts, solution architects, and project managers to deliver solutions for our clients.
For my favorite part of Tech on Tap, today's rating of the beers. Kendra brought us a beer all the way from her hometown in Brookings, South Dakota. This is Eponymous Brewing Co.'s Citronum IPA. So, Kendra, first off, how far away is this brewery from your house?
It's about a 2-mile stretch.
Sounds like a really big town that you live in.
Yeah.
So
you can get anywhere in a couple miles.
What's a couple miles?
6.
6. Okay. Your couple is different than mine. So. All right. So the rules with Tech on Tap, we're going to try the beers. We're going to rate it 1 through 5. With those that are rating the beers, everyone's got a different palate, a different taste. So we're going to go with this. See what you think, and then we'll get into our tech talk.
Foamy.
That was my pour. Don't blame that on the brewery. So what are you thinking? If you had to rate this on a 1 to 5 scale, what do you think about the beer? What does it taste like?
Give it a 3.5. A little happy, but not too happy.
Yeah, this one's a little more almost New England style IPA flavored, a little more bitter. I like it. I'd probably give it like a 3.5 as well. So give it 2 3.5s for a solid 3.5 rating for Tech on Tap.
Awesome.
Talking managed services here, let's do a little scenario-based questions. Let's say an IT executive came to you, right? They've got a certain workload that's out there, and they've got a certain amount of staff. They're looking to try to prioritize, and they can't get their priorities straight, right? Mm-hmm. So they have some new initiatives that need to be rolled out. They need to get ROI on their software solutions. But yet they still have to manage what's in-house and the users. Mm-hmm. How would you go about offering managed services, or what kind of services do you think would work best for that? Because I feel that's a scenario we see almost every day.
Yeah, and that's true. And there are some certain situations where a managed services style maybe isn't the correct offering. I mean, if there's a very tight timeline or a very strict budget, and something needs to be live by a certain point, just going with our kind of classic statement of work with a project plan and implementation is best. Where managed services is kind of utilizing more of a kind of day-to-day approach and week-to-week approach where things could shift and the scope could shift, and timelines could shift, and also skill sets needed, right? But allowing them to utilize the staff aug or managed services for things that they may not know come up is helpful. If they know the exact scope and the exact timeline that they would need something implemented for, then a typical kind of statement of work, scope of work would be best.
So, as we're talking about the managed services offering a little more, right, and we're getting into it, how are customers, or how are, companies figuring out that they need managed services? What made that come to be, in our mind, right? Is it just lack of resources? Is it too much work? I mean, is there a blend?
A lot of clients right now are looking to maybe downsize the platforms that they're utilizing. So they may look to try to migrate off of systems and get more like in line with one system, right? So there's offloading some of those other technologies and enabling the technologies that they currently invest in. So I think the project loads for those customers just utilizing one platform
Do you think that's driven by skill sets that they've had in-house and the shift to the new platforms, or do you feel like it's temporary? Does that make sense? Like, we've got one platform, we're consolidating, we're standardizing, everyone's educated that over here. We're going to use managed services to get us right. We need to go before we educate ourselves. We've already invested in the new platform. Is that?
I think it's helping making, other people experts, right? So helping to train those people up so that they can support the systems as efficiently as possible. And then also just, investing and watching where they're investing their dollars if they want to utilize, experts to get them there faster. They may not have the skill sets to do that, or they may have people who were experts on the system who are no longer with the company or with the agency.
So basically working with our customer to support them on whatever initiatives they have, but yet train them throughout the engagement, right?
Yeah, because we want them to be able to stay as effective in using the solution and improving the solutions once we step away as well.
So completing tasks and making our customers self-efficient.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, Kendra, over the last 5 years, we've seen an increased amount of managed services, which includes staff augmentations, support help, project help partnerships with our customers. Looking at what we've seen over the years in growth, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing today in the managed services offerings.
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the variety of types of offerings that we're working with clients on. And for the most part, if a client has a large backlog of help desk tickets internally, or they may have a large list of projects that they just can't get to, they may also have just one large project that they need assistance on for just a short period of time, 6 to 12 months. They may need a resource, and that doesn't really allow them to hire a long-term candidate. So I say that the variety of offerings that we've seen come from our original staff aug model is a little bit more diverse than it used to be.
So, as we start talking about, we'll call custom offerings, right? It's managed services, but yet it's tailored to a customer. How do we go about managing it so that we're getting the outcomes that we're looking for? What's the key components to that?
One of the key factors in successful managed services offerings is making sure that that resource is really a part of the team. So really part of the customer's day-to-day understanding of initiatives and what the customer's objectives are. It's very important for them to understand the system, but it's also important for them to understand the users.
Well, we work with customers of all different sizes, right? From smaller customers that only have a few employees to those that are enterprise-wide. Let's talk about size and scale of managed services for a little bit here. What's some of the smaller managed services you've seen, and how's that worked?
We see customers that have up to 6 resources for one customer that they're borrowing for data bank full time, and then we also see an 8 to 16 hour smaller engagement per week where they're just focused in on specific skill sets or tasks that the customer may need some help with. We've got a client now that we include our resource in their planning sessions, and then they give them the kind of work for the week, and it's 8 hours a week, but it works out great because it's very organized, and it allows us to focus on that customer for 8 hours a week, and it allows the customer to really tap into our skill set and our specialization without having to hire somebody for a 40-hour a week calendar.
There's a pretty big difference there as we're talking, right? We're talking 8 hours, a week. So, or we're talking 6 full-time resources. And let's start with the smaller side here. When you're talking 8 hours a week, is that ad hoc? Is that set schedules? What does that look like?
Yeah, typically the meetings that our resource is doing with the customer is a scheduled type event, but that allows our customers to have that scheduled list of objectives for our resource to complete. And usually the resource can work then throughout the week to complete that. Meanwhile, we're updating the client with our progress and how that's going. So,
how many touch points then are you having with that 8 hour a week?
Typically, it's just a one kind of scrum or objective meeting with the client and the team that the project's involved with.
So looking at the backlog, setting the objectives for the week, meeting the next week, making sure we complete it and move again.
Yep, just kind of like a grooming process.
Yeah, I like that. So for those smaller customers or those entities that are starting to look to just get moving, you need a little extra help. Tee up a list, right? It's going to be your hit list. You're going to run through it. We're going to work on it together. But that resource is probably going to find things too that weren't on that list, correct?
Correct, yeah. And that's what's nice about it is the customers really given this resource with a lot of knowledge and maybe looking into different things that client might not have seen in their own system.
What happens if that 8 hours a week turns into something a lot more that they need? They see a return on like a value for something we pitch. What do we do?
It's very easy to scale up or scale down, just depending on the work that's needed. So we're really flexible with the way that we can change the schedule for the client, depending on maybe the project or maybe the phase of the project. If they're going into a live phase or support phase, we can always scale up.
The one thing I've always liked about the staff augs, you get someone to really know your solutions intimate, like very intimate. They know what's going on. But yet that resource has still got a team lead and they've got a vertical manager or director. So you have multiple people that are in there for backups, which is key, right? A lot of people are single threaded with resources internally. That resource leaves and then they're stuck, right? So right now we're talking about ways we can get in. We didn't quite talk about how we got there. So what are you seeing for a lot of the reasons that we're being called in for managed services? Is it turnover? Is it growth? What have you seen here? Maybe just look at 2023, last year.
Yeah, I would say, in our industry, there is a lot of turnover, and it's sometimes positive turnover. Job roles change. So somebody that was trained in on the system might be in a different role now. And so bringing in a resource that's familiar with the software or the implementation can help kind of train up the next person in line that can be that admin and that expert for the other users of the system.
Before we move on to some of the larger engagements, the one thing I love was with these smaller ones that I love, when you're using a staff aug type resource or using a partner, right? Sometimes people hear third-party vendor and they're like, well, I don't want to use that, or, hey, we want to keep it in-house. That resource that you may hire might not have all hats they need to get something done. And those third-party vendors like us, you can tap someone on the shoulder. You can ask for help. The work gets done. It keeps moving. So the spinning of the wheels isn't there all the time. As we've seen projects progress, we've seen tasks progress. Do you see the staff augs in these smaller engagements scale? Do you see them shift from support to projects? Is that just a variation that you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say in most cases, we're able to help the client enough to have them, renew some sort of additional offering, whether it's another resource with a different skill set or just helping with their support tickets in general for their first line of support, right? So that's another really important thing that we do is we make sure that there's more than one person that understands the solution, and maybe not just that resource, but we're also making sure that our support team can support them after as they call in for support.
What happens in the situation where you've got managed services going, it's a backfill, someone's out on maternity leave or someone quits, and they want to bring someone else back in? Can you leverage that resource to help train in a new resource that would backfill?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, we have the ability to kind of make sure that the wheels keep turning and that the customer stays happy with who they're getting. If they're not a great match for the customer, we're always willing to make a change and trying to tap into a new skill set or type of resource.
I like that. The skill set thing's tough, right? A lot of our customers have many solutions that are out there that need to be supported. And to get that much training or have someone with that many specialties and skill sets, it's tough to find, right? Let's take a turn the other direction here. 6 full-time resources on a managed services engagement. What are they doing? That's 6 people. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, and they're actually working, just really intimately with that client and really being like a part of that team. So they all are working together in unison, knowing what kind of everyone else is working on, including the client and the client's resources. So that's where it can really get really awesome, and we can do really cool things is really just being a part of that client's team and helping them move things along and keeping everything organized, where we have a project manager on our side working with the project manager, scrum master on their side, and we're really all working towards the same objectives and the same goals and helping train people and doing discovery and design and also helping with development. So all kinds of different skill sets we have in some of these cases, but all working together in the same goals.
6 resources. What kind of roles in the company do they have?
Right now, our largest staff aug has a project manager, 2 types of business analysts. We have 3 solution engineers, and we also have a help desk engineer that can help them with their backlog of their help desk tickets.
Yeah, so when we hear managed services, we hear staff augs, we're really looking at leveraging resources from another company or third party to solve problems, to help with tickets, right? With these individuals, are they on the same project? Are they what kind of initiatives are they supporting?
Yeah, it could be various projects. So I think to a lot of our government clients who have more of a central IT presence, they have agencies that they support across states or counties. And they typically have multiple projects and multiple work streams going on at the same time, where they need that project team that can do many things at the same time. And just being aware if it's one system that they're all working together, understanding which projects everyone else is working on and not getting in each other's way.
So if we're working on this many projects and we're supplementing the customer, who's in charge of the documentation and tracking of what's being developed?
We do formalize documentation for every project that we work on, but we're constantly updating, project documentation, inventories, design documents, training documents with the most up-to-date changes that we're making in the system so the customer can have that, as well as our support team. So if the customer does call in and they're not in an active engagement, our support team's aware of what's been done in the system and can help support that client.
What about somewhere in between? So you've talked pretty small, right, about probably the minimum you can get out of a managed services offering, maybe a day a week, just to keep things moving, up to 6 full-time people. That's 240 hours or something like that, like coming through pretty regularly. That's a lot of hours. What happens when you start to fall into that full-time staff on one person or that managed services offering, you're in there for support, does that look anything different, or is it all?
Yeah, I think, we have a lot of resources that have a wide range of skill sets. So in the case of maybe just helping a smaller or medium-sized client out with some of their project backlog, we do have people who can do different roles, right? They can do the design, they can train, they can also implement. And having that one resource really allows that customer to use them in the areas that they need them. So just matching, like I said before, the skill sets that our resources have with the needs that the clients have is probably the key in making sure that a staff aug of any size is successful.
So when you say matching the resources with the staff aug or the managed services offering, that's understanding the needs of the engagement before we enter, correct?
Yes.
So it's not really just throwing a resource at it, it's going through the pre-sale side of it or that investigation, just really understanding what we need to do, make sure we marry up the right resources.
Right. Yeah, making sure that we're understanding the client's, long-term roadmap and objectives, and also for that specific task, we need to understand, the different technologies and who's the expert in them, so that we can assign them the correct resource.
Well, in summary, is it fair to say that managed servicing offerings can be used from any size customer, from your small to your large, and they can be leveraged from individual resources, helping with support, helping with tickets, training, to implementation of full solutions, and implementing those solutions with the customer as part of the team so they understand even more, intimately what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah.
It is also fun to help clean up and get things working well as work for our customers too. So
Awesome.
I think that was really good. I appreciate all the input you had today.
Yes.
Cheers. Summarizing today's Tech on Tap, we got to review great beer from Brookings, South Dakota, the Eponymous Brewing Co. I think I got that one right, Kendra.
Yes.
And it was a Citrum IPA. It was a good beer. We rated it at 3.5. And we got to talk about managed services, staff augmentations, and how that works with small scale to large scale engagements with our customers.